So I can't be the only person that is not shocked that Candace Owens has been let go from the Daily Wire. Let's talk about it. Now, I'm not one of those people that's new to the Candace Owens. I actually loved her initially. Me and my sisters, literally, they would come over to my house and we would sit down and we watch her when she was in her PragerU days. However, when she partnered up with Daily Wire in 2021, call it what it is, there was something demonic about that partnership, and it showed in the which that she spoke on Black people. It just revealed itself in such a disgusting way. When she made this comment right here, I was done. I was done. Let me play it for you.
One thing I always say, Tucker, is that the left can pull a racist narrative from thin air where it doesn't exist, but when it actually is in their face, they try to avoid it at all costs, especially when the perpetrator is a Black person against another white person, which obviously happens more often in this country, given the fact that Black Americans are the most murderous group in America by rate.
And this is why, again, I say, this is what I hate. The truth is I hate about American politics is how color-centered it is, right? Because what you guys do, it doesn't matter if it's on the Democratic end or the Republican, you address the community as a color, Black community, right? And then you guys are like two angry parents who are trying to gain custody of a child, and you guys are saying anything you can to sway that child into coming home with you. Like, you guys go back and forth and you say all of these disparaging things about the Black community, and in your minds, because you're blaming that other group or that other person for it, you're not actually saying anything about the Black community. No, you're blaming the other people. No, what you are doing is you're harmful to the mental health of the child. That's what you are. So you guys are so busy going to war with each other is that you're not being mindful of the things that you're putting out there. They're going to have an impact on the mentality and the self-esteem of Black children. And I will tell you right now, the idea that a Black child or a Black male child or a Black man is the most murderous group in America, do you understand the implications that can have long term? No, she needs to prove that or apologize for it, because it was dead ass wrong. She needs to make it right. She needs to admit how misguided she was in this statement, because instead what she did was double down on it. First, she made the statement in a tweet. It went crazy. And then again, she's being rewarded for bad behavior. And her thing was that she got this from FBI crime statistics. Well, as you guys know, I published a book, The Black Child's Guide to Surviving America. Doing the research on the research that she did was such an important chapter in the book, because again, a lot of people assumed or thought that The Black Child's Guide to Surviving America immediately means that, oh, you must be teaching them how to, handle police brutality. Listen, no. It really is about the fact that you have people like this. Not only do you have political pundits, but you also have the pro-Black people. And all of these people are at war for the minds of Black people. And they are painting this picture of how Black people need to think, feel, who they are. They're putting information out there, stereotypical, etc. And as a child, when you hear so much yelling and screaming and, people going back and forth, it's like, it's too much. It's too much. So really, it's about teaching children how to survive that echo chamber of noise about Blackness. Because I don't care what's going on in society, you don't get to the point where you say that an entire race of people, the male part of it, is the most murderous part in the culture. Because if she used that same statistics that she used from the FBI crime statistics, well, guess who's the most rapists based on those statistics? Culture in America. White males, white men. Do you think Laura Ingraham would ever and could ever get on Fox News and say that according to FBI crime statistics, white men are the most rapist group in society? Do you ever think that Laura Ingraham could say something like that? And if you're listening to this as a white mother, you would lose your mind if someone got on TV and tried to imply that white men were the most rapist group in society. You want to know why? You would think about your little boy, and you would understand how harmful that type of rhetoric being out here in society is. And that's what Candace Owens did. And she needs to address that, because she was slander for hire. And now that it's run its course, you're not going to gaslight me into thinking that you were trying to empower the Black community the entire time. No, you were not. You were criticism for hire, and your criticism is no longer needed. But you were never empowerment. Never. So when Candace became the mouthpiece of the Republican Party, they were getting a lot for their money, because on one point they were getting someone that was challenging the Democratic Party. On the other end, they were getting someone that was telling the Black community things that a lot of people wanted to say, right? Many stereotypical, many based on facts, statistics, etc. And then on the other end, they were actually gaining Black conservatives, right? She broke through a cultural glass ceiling where the Republicans were not able to reach culture, let alone the Black community. And Candace Owens was a very key piece in them being able to reach the hearts and minds of the Black community. So it would make sense that they would partner up with her. So one thing that I know about Ben, because I've listened to his content, is Ben does not believe in the idea of white culture. This is important, right? He does not believe that race and culture, that there's automatically a culture just because you have a particular race. Now, I'm going to post this video so you can see.
I don't think that race and culture have to be interrelated, nor should they be. I mean, I wouldn't say that it is quote unquote black culture to not value education. There are plenty of black Americans who value education extraordinarily highly. I think that there are certain pathologies that exist in poor communities, black or white, that are common across those communities. Now, they may not exist in the same proportions in those communities, but that has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture, right? There are areas of white Appalachia where education is not valued particularly highly. J.D. Vance talks about this in Hillbilly Elegy. The pathologies of poverty that exist cross-racially are the same. And then it's just a question of how often they exist in particular communities, regardless of race. So pathologies of poverty include not valuing education enough, such that your kids are not spending a lot of time on homework, or not having fathers in the home, such that you have two parents who are available to help read with your kids. Pathologies of poverty include high crime, include, again, lack of fathers in the home means that very often young men tend to congregate in gangs, right? Those are pathologies of poverty, right? All of those pathologies are not unique to the black community. They may exist disproportionately in particular black communities, but that doesn't mean that that's because of the race.
Well, a few years later, when Ben Shapiro now does not agree with Candace Owens, and he now calls her a disgrace and faux sophistication, I did not think for a second that his idea of her having faux sophistication existed in that moment. I do not think it was because of her viewpoints between Hamas and Israel that was the reason why he called her faux sophistication. No, I believe that this has always been a thought in the back of his mind, because fundamentally their beliefs have never aligned, meaning Ben has spent more time, I would say, synthesizing thoughts to get to a better conclusion than Candace has, right? But then why would he align himself with someone like Candace when she was so far behind in terms of coming to a full analyzation in terms of thought? Because she was a means to an end. She solved a really big problem that the Republican Party was having. And then let's not use my words, let's use Ben's words so you can see.
So Republicans have been struggling, obviously, for decades to try and make inroads in the black community. Shockingly, some of the polls show that Trump is actually making some inroads in the black community, which is a complete, obviously, surprise to many of the pollsters and to many in the mainstream media. What do you think is the best way for Republicans to speak to members of the black community? Because it seems that they've tried a bunch of different angles. All of them seem to fail. Many of them seem to be very apologetic in tone. There's this feeling like, okay, we have to make excuses for what we are saying. It's always seemed to me that if you talk to black people the same way you talk to everybody else, because black people are like everybody else, that seems like the best way to do it. But
right.
But I think you have more expertise on this than I do.
Yeah.
So how should Republicans talk to members of the black community?
So what I've noticed with Republicans is that they're suffering from PTSD. You guys get called racist so much that you're fearful, right? And I'm saying you guys, I'm kind of looping you into all of this, but they're fearful to say anything, even if it's true.
Ben Shapiro was adamant about the Republican Party making more of an impact when it comes to not only culture, but the black community. And Ben is responsible for being an architect, for putting different people in place and utilizing them to essentially be one loud megaphone, culturally impactful megaphone for the Republican Party and the conservative movement. And Candace Owens was essential. She was an important piece for him to get that done. So she was serving his purpose, not hers. Most black conservatives that I know, their viewpoint comes from not only making sure that they protect their rights as Americans, etc., but a large majority of their thinking comes from the perspective of what's in the best interest of young black children. So oftentimes they're conservative because they do not agree or fall in alignment with a lot of the things that are projected as being black culture, etc. Right? And the other thing that a lot of black conservatives fight very hard for is to remove themselves from this whole monolith or this whole idea that we're the black community, we have to think one way, etc. Right? So Candace Owens, some of her talking points sounds like she's a black conservative, but in all true reality, what she really is a Trumpster. So my big overarching question is, she defended, essentially, she put on her cape to support Donald Trump. This is before she was even in agreement with him. However, there's a lot of people who are in agreement with Candace Owens, especially those in the Jewish community. So who in the Jewish community is going to put on their cape and stand in front of the Jewish community and defend her to the very end and expose the victim mentality, all of this? Who is going to say, no, you don't get a free pass on doing harm because of historic, issues of discrimination, etc., violence, whatever it may be? Who in the Jewish community is going to play that role for her that she played towards the black community for the sake of Trump? Who loves Candace that much and the Jewish community to do that for her? And when you understand that, you understand how much of a tool she was, because no one's going to come to her defense in that kind of way. Who is going to dispel this whole idea of anti-Semitics, etc., the same way she wanted to dispel the idea of racism in America? Who is going to be Candace for Candace? Please.